I hope that inside this little mini course that you've taken off the solution-based mindset and you've put on more of the journey-based mindset. Like, what are we dealing with right now in this moment? Let's deal with that. And then we'll keep walking down this path together and we'll keep exploring this together. Hi, y'all, and welcome to this mini course on communication and conflict repair. This is the first of a whole series of mini courses that I'm going to be making here about relationship skills. My name is Elizabeth. I have been helping people inside of relationships, gender, sexuality since 2008. I am a certified transformational coach, and I have been running my own practice, specifically helping people in the LGBTQIA+ and non-monogamous communities with their relationships since 2017. If you want to know more about me, the link is in the description. But I'm on a mission. What's most important is that I am on a mission to make queer relationship education as accessible as possible. I have been making content online since 2019, so I have a whole backlog of content, but I wanted to make something that was more tangible, that you really could walk away from these mini courses with actions to take. It's one of the reasons why I love transformational coaching, because it really is all about where are you at right now? Where would you like to be? And how do you get there in a way that really works for you? And that's different for every single person, which brings me to my next thing before we dive into our topic today, which is communication and conflict repair. The next things that I want to remind you, and I have my notes, so I might look over as we go throughout this, is that number one, this video is not medical or legal or psychological advice. If you are in a crisis, please contact your doctor or 911 or any other professional services that are applicable to you and your situation so that someone can assist you in what you are dealing with. This video is really just meant for education. I do not know your specific situation. This is not telling you what to do. This is merely skills that you can or cannot apply to your relationship. It is completely and 100% your choice to see what works best and to apply what works best for you and to seek out the help that you need. This is not a substitute for therapy or any sort of psychological services. All right, great. Are we on the same page? Okay, cool. So with that, if you are coming to this video, then you are probably in some sort of conflict. And if you are in a conflict, you probably came to this video wanting a solution. And so I want to walk you through 5 things that you can do if you are in a conflict to move towards the place that you would like to be, or the place that you and your partner or partners would ultimately like to be. So the first thing is that I want you to slow down and actually stop trying to think of what the solution could be right now. That's pretty normal for any time that anyone is inside of a conflict, that you really want things to be better as soon as possible, right? Like, no one likes to be in this uncomfortable spot. No one likes to feel bad. No one likes to see their partner feeling bad. No one likes to feel guilty or shame or hurt or anger or disappointment. I understand that you want to get out of that situation, like you want to have a solution. However, when we jump right into finding a solution, we skip over the internal work, the communication, the repair work that needs to happen so that this really can be a healing scenario for you and your partner or partners. So that way you can move on and this doesn't continue to resurface. All of us have been in those scenarios where the same thing keeps happening over and over and over again. And one of the reasons that that might be happening is because you're not slowing down enough to do the proper repair work so that it stops happening. That is one of the main reasons why we want to let go of solution finding right now and slow down. And I know that that's really hard to do, but I'm going to give you something to do with the next thing. So the second thing is you want to get the full picture of what is happening right now. And I'm going to break this down, okay? There is a workbook that I've created with this video, so you can actually download the workbook for free and you can go through all of this with me. The link to that is in the description to this video. So you can just open the description, click on the link, open it up, and then go through this with me if that is easier for you to learn. And also you can save it for later and go through it with your partner or partners as well. So getting the full picture, you're going to answer these questions, okay? So the first question you're going to answer is, what actually happened? And what I mean is not what you think happened, not why you are mad or why you are upset or why you feel hurt or why you feel sad, not any assumptions or stories or anything like that. Like literally, if there was a video camera in this situation, then what would the video camera have picked up? So that would look like what you can actually see, what you can actually hear. You know, people's body posture, their behavior, their words, their tone, things like that. So instead of saying my partner came home late and they stormed in and I was super mad and upset and they always do this to me and I just couldn't believe how disrespected I was. All of that we can't really see on a video camera except for maybe your partner coming in late. So what it would actually sound like is my partner pulled into the driveway. I was waiting at the window. My body was shaking. I was red. When my partner walked in the door, they looked visibly upset. They had a frown on their face. And the words that came out of their mouth were, and the words that came out of my mouth were, and then they proceeded to walk past me and go up the stairs, and then there was silence in the house. All of that you can pick up on a video camera. So really getting like what actually happened. And that's going to play a role in these next few questions, okay? After you really get like what actually happened, like physically happened, then next is how do you feel? How did you feel then? How do you feel now? And again, we're being very, very specific here. So not saying I'm angry because this always happens to me. We're actually separating that out. So just saying, I'm angry. The feeling that I am feeling is anger. I'm feeling sadness. I'm feeling hurt. I'm feeling betrayal. I'm feeling disappointment. Whatever it is that you may be feeling, just saying, this is what I am feeling right now. And it's not to dismiss your thoughts, but it is to start to separate out the meaning that we make between how we feel and what we think. So see how we're separating things out. So it's like, this is what physically happened. This is what I'm feeling about it. And then next is, what are the thoughts that you are having about it? As we start to separate those things out, then we can start to see a little bit more clearly what our experience is what the thoughts are that you're having about it. And when we separate those things out, then we can start to see the greater picture and map of what's going on with us internally, which is going to help us down the line when we start to communicate this. So the other thing about writing down or acknowledging your feelings is feeling your feelings. Right now, again, where the first step was slow down. The second step is acknowledge these things. And inside of acknowledging it is also feeling it, allowing yourself to be angry. And again, we're separating out how we feel from our behavior. So being angry, feeling angry does not mean acting on that anger. It means acknowledging that you feel angry and allowing yourself to feel. I'm using anger as an example. It could be sadness. Again, it could be disapproval. It could be disappointment. It could be grief. It could be betrayal. Whatever it is that you are feeling, acknowledging it and just letting yourself have that experience without having to do anything about it, without making any meaning of it. Just allowing yourself to feel it. Because what we want to do is we want to feel those feelings so that we can get them out, so that we can move through them, so that we can process them. Because if we don't do that and we don't start to remove some of the charge of that, and if you don't allow yourself to feel it, you're not going to remove the charge. So feeling it so that you can start to move through the charge of it. It's like when you're lifting weights and you're like lifting, your weights, and then eventually your muscles are going to get fatigued and you're going to have to drop the weight. It is a similar thing with emotions. Allowing ourselves to feel those emotions is going to lessen the charge, so it's going to allow us to move through them a little bit more easily. Maybe this takes 30 minutes, but maybe this takes the next month to really allow yourself to process through some of this. Conflict is hard, and how we feel and what we get triggered by can be really complicated. And so allowing for all of that nuance is also going to be really important. So once we've moved through our charged emotions or move through them a little bit more. I'm not saying like you can't talk to your partner, you can't have a conversation about this until you fully process this emotion. That's not realistic, and that's also not needed either. But moving through enough of the charge so that you can actually have a conversation about it where you're speaking from a place of authenticity rather than a place of hurt. So that's what we're looking for here. And that's a skill that you can cultivate over time. And maybe what you need to do in order to do that is talk to a professional like a therapist or a certified coach or someone who can hold this space with you in a responsible way. Now that you've moved through more of this charged emotion, you can start to parcel it out a little bit more. So we had the what happened, we had the emotions that came up around it, then we had the thoughts that came up around it too. And now that we've moved through some of that charge, we're going to revisit the emotions and the thoughts that came up around that and ask yourself, did these emotions and these thoughts come from this specific scenario? Or did these emotions and these thoughts come from the history that we have in this relationship? Or did these emotions and these thoughts actually come from something way before this relationship? For example, feeling disrespected. Like, if you felt disrespected in this scenario, how often do you feel disrespected? How long have you been feeling disrespected? Notice this as, is this a pattern for yourself that when you get upset about something, that the emotion that comes to you is disrespect? And why do you feel disrespected? Why is it a pattern for you that you feel disrespected? Maybe there's an unmet need here where if you feel disrespected, maybe you have a need to be heard. Maybe you have a need, an obvious one is to be respected, but maybe there's a, deeper need there because this is a pattern that continually comes up for you. That's why, again, we separated the what happened with what emotion did you feel about it, because in that same scenario, if someone else was in it, maybe instead of feeling disrespected, they would feel betrayed. Or someone else, maybe in that scenario, they would feel really hurt and sad, because how we feel, how we respond or react to situations doesn't necessarily have to just do with that situation, but has to do with a pattern of how we've learned how to respond to triggering situations. So knowing that pattern about yourself is also going to help zoom out and see this scenario from a greater perspective and have a little bit more compassion for yourself and a better understanding of why you responded the way that you did. So coming at these questions with curiosity, with compassion, with interest in yourself, and why you're responding the way that you are. And maybe even, in a second here, we're going to talk about why your partner or partners are responding the way that they are as well. Okay, so do you understand now what I mean by getting the full picture of what's going on and why it's so important to slow everything down? When we have conflict in relationships, there's more nuance to the situation than just one moment or one incident or one circumstance. It also has to do with how we respond to that, how we respond to our own emotions, the thoughts that we have, the patterns of our own responses and behaviors. So really zooming out and understanding why we reacted the way that we did to what happened. And this doesn't, condone what happened, but it's just to understand and be able to communicate that to our partner. Which brings us to the third aspect of this, which is to having conversations with your partner about what's coming up for you. So you've probably already been having conversations with them about this. Maybe some of you haven't, but in this process, you're going to be having multiple conversations. This is not a one and done conversation. And as you continue to understand your own responses and your own feelings and what's coming up for you, it's also going to lead to more conversations with your partner to do this type of repair work in the relationship. So you're going to share with them your point of view. And this is where it comes to I first language. Like, this is my point of view. This is what I saw. This is how I felt. This is why I felt. So coming from your specific point of view without accusing, without blaming, without pointing fingers, but truly just stating what happened as you saw it, how you felt about it, what your thoughts were about that, and maybe even acknowledging, like, when things come up like this, I tend to feel really disrespected. And so I think that that's why it came up for me, and why this is such a big deal for me is this. So really being clear and direct with how you felt, why you felt that way, and what your point of view is. And then you're going to get curious about their point of view. Getting curious is asking open-ended questions, but not accusatory questions, rather curious questions. So instead of, why would you disrespect me like that? You would say, what happened that you came home 2 hours later than you said you were going to? One is accusatory, one is questioning and curious, right? Hoping that you can hear the difference. I'm sure you can. So again, this might take more than one conversation, and depending on the situation, you might want to involve a third impartial party, again, like a therapist, like a certified coach, like a mediator, someone who can help facilitate this conversation with you. Or you can use the workbook that I've attached to this video, and hopefully that's helpful for you as well. So the fourth thing that you're going to do is you're going to talk about how you'd like it to be going. And this sounds like creating the solution, but I don't want you to think about it that way, because a solution is like, we've now completed this thing and it solves forever. Where relationships are more of a lifelong road, right? So it's not necessarily about like bundling everything up and tying it off in a bow, but it's more like, how would we like our relationship to look or be going that is different than how it is right now, such that we can continue to learn and grow and be peaceful and loving and connected and intimate. And when you're creating this vision, you want to agree on what that vision is. That may sound obvious, but sometimes, when I'm working with clients, sometimes I say things that sound obvious, and then it's like, oh yeah, we have to agree on it. That's right. So saying something that you both agree on and that is really, really clear. So the example being that ultimately what we would like in our relationship is to have clear communication around time and schedule. And maybe you even look, hindsight 2020 on this scenario. Like, what would have been better is if you would have texted me when your boss asked you to stay late at work and let me know, so that way I could plan accordingly. So creating that clear vision and then looking hindsight 2020, how could this have gone better? Because now you're actually building actionable things that you could do inside of this vision. So do you see how that's not necessarily a solution, but it's more that you're beginning to build better habits and healthier expectations in your relationships? So the fifth and final thing is, what is the first step you want to take in this shared vision together? What is the habit that you want to create? What is the expectation that you now want to set? What does that actually look like? When you do this work, it's really amazing when you can go a little bit deeper, find out a little bit more about yourself, your emotions, have better communication around things. That's awesome. But setting yourself on that path, on that trajectory, like that fourth and fifth thing that we talked about, that shared vision together, and then that first step on that shared vision is actually going to start to give you that momentum. So you're starting to work towards it together. So what is that first action that you're going to take? Again, in this scenario around time and scheduling, maybe you set up a shared calendar. Maybe you do something really playful, which I highly recommend you do. This whole week, we're going to send each other cute love texts every single day just to get in the habit of texting one another. Or like maybe we're going to talk to each other every single time something changes in the schedule, even if it's like minute and like so silly. You're at work and someone tells you that they're going to be 5 minutes late for a meeting, and your partner doesn't need to know that. But inside of this habit that you're building and also adding fun and silliness and playfulness to it, maybe you text your partner like, hey, my collaborator is running 5 minutes late for a meeting. Just thought I'd let you know. And not doing that in a spiteful way, like doing that in an agreed upon silly way, right? So anytime that you can make things silly and fun, it's going to help add to the repair, help add to the trust, and also help build that habit of communication down the line. Okay, so I hope by now you can see how jumping into a solution-based mindset is going to miss so much inside of how you're feeling, inside of processing this together, inside of communicating and getting curious with one another. So I hope that inside this little mini course that you've taken off the solution-based mindset and you've put on more of the journey-based mindset. Like, what are we dealing with right now in this moment? Let's deal with that. And then we'll keep walking down this path together and we'll keep exploring this together. I would love to hear in the comments, what did you take from this video? What was really valuable about this for you? What are you taking away? I'm so curious to hear what you got and if this was a valuable video for you. So don't forget that there is a workbook that is attached to this video, so make sure that you click on that and that you download it so that you can really work through all of this in a way that is most digestible for you and that you can come back to it as well. And if this was really valuable for you, you can help more people learn this by subscribing to my channel. Thank you so much for doing that. And I am very happy to have you here and have you be a part of our growing community, learning these relationship skills that are going to not only help you, but have a ripple effect outward inside of your relationships, your work, your communities, inside of your family. Thank you so much for your commitment to love, to connection. We really are all in this together. Love you so much.